Good evening, everyone. I would like to present a series of infants whom we had in our hospital who presented with severe pulmonary hypertension, and we found a different etiology and management for these set of infants. So it is severe pulmonary hypertension in breastfeeding infants, a reversible and a catastrophic disorder. This was an observational prospective study. We had infants aged between 1 to 7 months with normal antenatal, postnatal and intranatal history. They were born at full-term gestation. Growth and development was normal. They came with symptoms of poor feeding, irritability, tachypnea. Occasionally, some of them had cough, and fast breathing was universal. Some of them, this aphonia was symptom which was not common to any of the pediatric diseases. They had hoarseness of voice, which lasted for around 3 to 4 days duration. And longer the duration of symptoms, the chance of aphonia was higher. So they were referred from pediatricians either in view of cardiomegaly or presence of murmur, or they found that child was desaturating. One history common to all these children were that they were all on exclusive breastfeeding. So this was done over a period of 4 years. And severe pulmonary hypertension. Here we took definition of pulmonary hypertension, any TRZ gradient more than 50 millimeters of mercury. So children with any serious CHD other than a small ASD or a PDA were excluded from the study. Those who had significant neonatal ICU stay, those who were at risk for BPD were also not included. And those who were syndromic or had dysmorphic features were also excluded from this. So we had a total of 169 infants with a male is to female ratio of 1.7:1. Mean age was 3.4 and the youngest infant was actually 3 weeks old. Growth was reasonable with the minimum growth centile being 18 and development was normal. So these were the symptoms which I have already enumerated. Irritability and fast breathing was universal. Poor feeding and vomiting was seen, and some of them had aphonia and cough. So one interesting history is all the mothers who, especially of Hindu background, Hindu ethnicity, they have food taboos and food restrictions in immediate postpartum period. There are strict rules forbidding most of the commonly consumed food. Only rice with rasam is allowed to the mother, and this is consumed 3 times a day. And if the baby is born as male, this strict restrictions goes on to extend to the 2nd and 3rd month of postpartum. And the consumption of pulses, lentils and many vegetables are almost absent in their daily diet. So tachypnea, tachycardia, some of them had saturations less than 92%. Hepatomegaly was present in all these patients. Around 16 babies had come in severe acute failure with acidotic breathing, blood gases showing severe lactic acidosis and hypotension. Examination, there was S1, S2 was heard with loud second sound, and some of them had systolic murmur. Hemogram was normal in most of them. There was no overt evidence of infection. Chest X-ray, no significant infiltrates suggestive of bronchopneumonia. Cardiomegaly was the only finding. We had done thyroid function test and also HIV as a protocol, and this was normal in all the babies. Echo showed, so this was the echocardiogram, showed significantly dilated RA-RV. Some of them, almost 60% of them had RV dysfunction. There was, you can see the short axis, how the RV septum is bulging into LV and RV is grossly dilated. There was mild to moderate TR. PA pressures was in this patient 71. Average PA pressure was 73. And many of them, as you can see here, had a PFO which was shunting right to left, which would explain the desaturation. So we admitted all these children, kept them NPO, started them on maintenance fluids, administered oxygen, gave dobutamine whenever there was evidence of RV dysfunction, and diuretics. We started all these children on thiamine. The dose we used was 50 mg IV BD, which would be given as an infusion over 30 minutes to 60 minutes. In the initial 37 babies, we were not sure. We had started on sildenafil for all these babies, but after that we have stopped using sildenafil as a part of our treatment protocol. So what was the response? We have seen dramatic response happening within 8 to 24 hours. The first response is actually clinical in the form of return of social smile, playfulness, reduced irritability and acceptance of feeds, cessation of vomiting, reduction of tachycardia and tachypnea. And over 48 to 72 hours, we found that echo parameters also normalized, RARV dilatation reduced, PFO shunt reversed, and PASP reduced. And by the time of discharge, the saturations had normalized. Aphonia was the one which took little longer to resolve. We gave thiamine supplementation to both the mother and baby for 3 months of time. The 3 months was based on the premise that these children are on exclusive breastfeeds for up to 6 months of age, during which the thiamine supply to the baby is dependent on the mother's intake. So we have a median follow-up of 17 months and the longest is 54 months. During this, we had 6 deaths. Among them, 5 of them came in severe acidosis and a moribund state. Actually, one child was not very sick when the child came, but during the insertion of IV line, child had severe crying, following which child went into a cardiac arrest, and unfortunately we couldn't resuscitate that child. And one other child who came very sick, we intubated in the OPD and we shifted to ICU. After administration of thiamine, we could actually extubate the same day. So 10 children have been lost to follow-up. 3 children died on follow-up due to non-cardiac illness, and we have not found any recurrences on follow-up. So this is a box plot showing the reduction in the pulmonary artery pressure at admission and at discharge. So there is a gap of 3 to 4 days. And the reduction of PA pressure was around 50 millimeters of mercury. So this is just a comparison. So you can see the admission echo and the discharge echo in a matter of few days. And comparison of the short axis at admission and during discharge. So the PA pressures reduced, this PA pressure at discharge is around 12. So we have labeled this as thiamine responsive acute pulmonary hypertension, which was also known as wet beriberi. So this was described quite early, and in one of these papers published in 1962, it has been classified as a cardiologic form, aphonic form and pseudomeningitic form. Probably it's a spectrum of manifestation, and these different forms, they evolve over time as the duration of the thiamine deficiency continues. So one of the largest papers published was in 1931 in a Philippines journal by Albert, where he had published 514 cases. And at that time, thiamine as an entity was not yet known. And they described that these symptoms can be resolved by administration of rice extracts, rice water extracts. And recently, there has been some series reported by Rao et al. From Andhra Pradesh, where he has mentioned 55 infants. And this same institute also has published a series of cases where infants have developed symptoms similar to encephalopathy, which is resembling Leigh disease, which also resolved with thiamine. So the same institute has published both the cardiologic form and the encephalitic form of thiamine deficiency. So after 1931, right now, this is the largest series. Probably this is what has been come to light, and in the community, I am sure that there will be lots more cases which have not been recognized. So the WHO Nutrition Manual says that infantile beriberi should be considered in a population if the rate of death is very high in 2 to 4 months of life. So why does thiamine deficiency cause pulmonary hypertension? Thiamine deficiency plays a central role in carbohydrate metabolism. It is required in the Krebs cycle as pyruvate enters as acyl-CoA. It is required for the generation of ATP. So once thiamine deficiency is present, it is a state of pseudo-hypoxia. So it is as if the ATP is not being able to generate. So any child who is very hypoxic or hypotensive develops lactic acidosis. So also children with thiamine deficiency, they go into anaerobic metabolism. And this leads to some kind of vasodilatation and a high output failure. Because nervous tissue and heart use ATP at a very high rates, these are the tissues which are first affected by thiamine deficiency. So any excess carbohydrate diet, alcohol, liver disease, parenteral nutrition, all can lead to thiamine deficiency, and these are the common sources. How do we estimate? What is the way to prove? That is very difficult. Definitive lab tests are not available. The only accurate way of establishing thiamine deficiency is by measuring the activity in the RBCs, by estimating the erythrocyte transketolase activity. So at present, diagnosis we are considering only after ruling out structural heart diseases, the common ones which should not be missed and which should not be labeled as idiopathic or thiamine responsive is TAPVC, coarctation, scimitar syndromes. So once you have ruled out all structural heart diseases, the child is in the age group where it is prone for thiamine deficiency. You should give a trial of thiamine and see, because response to thiamine is the best test in all these children. Lab testing is expensive and is not widely available. So in conclusion, it is a rapidly curable hemodynamic disaster. It seems to be a health problem of epidemic proportions. We are a referral hospital and we may be seeing only the tip of iceberg. Cultural practices and food taboos are causative, and population preventive measures are required to tackle this health problem. So this were some of the other rare causes we found during our course of study. Isolated pulmonary artery, vein of Galen malformation, which is again a state of high cardiac output. The child presented with severe pulmonary hypertension. Congenital pulmonary vein stenosis, pulmonary alveolar proteinosis, and Abernethy malformations. Thank you.
Usha, this is very good, but I think you must immediately institute public health measures, and you have to notify government and you have to tell them what has happened. The findings have to be shared on a large public health platform. It's academically interesting, but it is much more of an embarrassment that we continue to have this in 2019. So we need to have this as an alert for the fact that the practice of supplying polished rice to impoverished populations, this is very commonplace in tribals. This needs to change, and they need to bring in ways by which they have to do thiamine supplementation for the poorer populations in whom rice is being supplied. So this needs a newspaper report. It needs involvement of healthcare authorities also.
Okay, this is the first ever major meeting we are presenting this data. Wherever we have signed to even the pediatrics IEP, either accepted as a poster presentation or something, though it is such an important
Let it be published.
No, I know.
Once it's published, you really have to use it to drive home the public health message.
Pediatrics. What used to happen 5 years back is that we used to see the children coming and dying just like that. We had no hopes. But we had tried. I think Dr. Nageshwar Rao also had mentioned to us once, I think thiamine has been given in Andhra Pradesh once or twice. So we started. Now it is almost using a diagnostic tool. If they do not respond to the IV thiamine, almost it is sure that it's not thiamine responsive. Next day we start them on sildenafil and whatever the regular modes of treatment.
Polished rice is a great tragedy.
Yeah, correct. No, this has to be a public, I think it has to be a community-based programs has to be there.
Over what time? Because this is mind-boggling. I mean, we know that it could cause, but I didn't think the scale could be of this nature. You are saying 180 over what period of time? And
it's not a very, I accept it's not a very good data maintenance. If we had kept all the cases, I'm sure it would
generally
reach
over what period of time you're talking? Are you talking of over
3 to 4
over
years?
3.5 years.
3 to 4 years, but this is the data which she presented 167 or something was almost.
And what is the mean age? The mean age?
But I think we have
The
treated
mean age is 3 months.
3 months. So because I would contest that, all of it could not be, may not be thiamine deficiency. I mean, as an entity, this must be recognized, but if you make it a public health problem, we don't see it.
I mean, you can't.
You have to go to South India to know what's happening, because I worked with tribals in Wayanad, and I visited homes where the only source of nutrition for all the tribal families is the government supplied polished rice. There is no other source. They mix it with water, they have kanji, and it is they have a very high infant mortality in those regions. We do unexplained infant mortality,
yes, sir.
Which is what she's talking about. Those places don't have, they just have babies dying without reasons which they can't identify. So this is, and the government has not realized the fact that what they're doing is not appropriate.
No, they're not aware of it, sir.
They are not aware of it.
What is happening right now is that in Karnataka, by the word of mouth, every district, all the pediatricians know about it now. They are treating themselves there. They're not
So this is
referring
a
us.
man-made
They're not-
problem, actually. It's there in Tamil Nadu, it's there in Kerala, tribal populations, because now food is made available. I mean, nobody dies of hunger per se, but the kind of food that's been made available is polished rice because it's easier to get. It's actually much less expensive to have polished rice than to have hand pounded rice. Hand pound is very expensive, and hand pound is got excellent thymine. It's thymine rich because that red coating of, it's full of thymine. So that's a problem.
So parboiled rice has a very high content of thiamine. That is what should be supplied. No, it is actually cheap, but people will not accept it because it is difficult to cook and the texture is not very palatable. Kerala consumes parboiled rice. Andhra, Karnataka, Jammu, Kashmir, Calcutta, they all consume polished rice, and these are the places where it is very high.
Just a comment here. Not only breastfed babies. I remember reading in earlier textbooks of medicine, even older patients who have unexplained heart failure, vitamin B, particularly thiamine supplements, used to be recommended. I don't see it anymore in the books because there are a lot more things to write now. But I think one of the treatments in unexplained heart failure used to be vitamin B, particularly thiamine replacement. I think it applies to older patients also.
Scurvy, sir.
So that was a very exhaustive day, I think. Sorry for the case presenters. We'll accommodate you tomorrow for sure. So we'll break this session today. We'll stop here and hope to see you all at 9 a.m. tomorrow morning. And hopefully we'll stick to time tomorrow.